Chiefs Kingdom, welcome in to the latest AP breakdown on my Twitter page, on the Arrowhead Pride YouTube page, on my YouTube page. Thank you for joining me, whether it's live during this Falcons-Rams Monday night game or just at another time. Thank you for joining. I'm Ron Kopp Jr., the contributing editor at arrowheadpride.com. And as always, I did not do it last week, and so this is kind of maybe a bonus little episode because I'm going to be putting something out tomorrow. You guys will see. But as I do weekly, we're talking about the Chiefs film. And, instead of looking back at these last two games, this Titans game and the Broncos game, both losses, both, stuff to take away from for sure. And maybe we will get to that at some point. But today I definitely wanted to look back, since I did take the time over the weekend to look back at the third and long defense from this season. And Kane already trying to make noise, my dog, and look at what we can learn from some of these big spots they had. And really why I ended up cutting it down to was because, third and longs happen in terms of, third and long conversions happen, offenses get them. And I'm talking about the Chiefs defense to be specific. But at the same time, I think my main point here is that in three losses, Denver game, the Cowboys game, and the Texans game, there were some third and longs that got converted that ended up being pretty crucial in the game, difference-making plays. And in the Denver-Dallas game, there were a lot of them, actually. And so we're going to go over that. But basically, what I think the reason I look at the third and long defense and why it's so important to me that we get it right in Kansas City is, first of all, if you're looking at C. Spagnuolo's defense, it seems like whenever we want to have a solid run defensive effort or get to those, third and longs by making plays on first down, second down against the run, this defense steps up and does it. Spags, regardless of the personnel he's had, especially in recent years, I should say, in the last few years he's been around, really feels like the run defense steps up when it needs to. And then it becomes about, well, what happens on third and long? What happens on 3rd and 7+, which is what NFL Pro categorizes as third and long. And so that's what you're going to be seeing today. And really it just gives you an opportunity to see not only the 4-man pass rush, maybe the blitzing, maybe not getting home at times, but the coverage too. Maybe what in the secondary is leading to some of these plays. But let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start in that Denver game, week 11, right out of the bye week. Let me get the video pulled up. But again, we're really going over 3 games, and they're all just the third and longs that, there's so much we can talk about with this season. What went wrong. Offense, I've talked about it all year. And that's why I did kind of want to switch it up for this show as we get closer, as we get into the off season, which, there's plenty to talk about from this season, but let's talk about the defense. And again, I think we all know the strengths and weaknesses of the defense, but let's see if we can learn a little more about why some of these third and longs, which again, I think it's where you want to be as an NFL defense. You get to third and long. Sometimes the offenses convert them, but in this instance where in Denver, we had 4 third and longs convert, and then Dallas there was actually 5 of them, both road losses that, if you win, specifically the Denver game, that maybe causes some momentum, but if you win, both of those games or one of those 2 games, who knows how the season, plays out differently. But let's take a step back here on the first one. This is the opening drive, and what the most frustrating part about when you give up a third and long is when it comes after a first down sack, which was the case here. For anyone recalls, the first play of the game in Denver was Chamari Connor coming in on a blitz and getting a sack, really setting Denver back. And then all of a sudden they're in 3rd and 7, and they just get a quick 8 yards. And what you're going to get here is a zone blitz. George is going to be the one dropping out in that fire zone scheme where a defensive line replaces one of the blitzing defenders. And so they actually send 2 blitzers, right? You're going to see it up here. Jalen Watson's acting like he's in man coverage. Here's Nick Bolton, I believe, or excuse me, not Nick Bolton, the other linebacker on the field at the time, or Chamari Connor. Need to get the end zone angle to get my names right. But yeah, let's look at the rush first. So fire zone, you're going to get to the left. You're going to get these 2 guys blitzing along with the 3-man front right here. And then the edge guy on the other side is going to drop out. Pretty standard zone blitz. The Chiefs do it all the time. And Karlaftis is a guy they do it with plenty, right? Well, first of all, Omenihu does a good job winning, getting pressure, disrupting. So this is where it's really on the back end here, because this is what, you can't ask for much more out of a rush. You get pressure, right? It's in the quarterback's face pretty quickly. I will say, when you're blitzing, I mean, you want to get home, and Dana allows himself to get chipped into no man's land all the way out here. Connor doesn't really put himself in good position to, he runs into the running back. He runs into the outside gap where the running back's trying to protect. So that's tough. But Omenahue, again, gets the pressure. But let's look at the back end. And this is where, if you guys remember, this is Christian Fulton's first game, in the lineup the entire season pretty much, right? All of a sudden Christian Fulton's in the game. And this is where some of that comes into play, man, where even at the time I remember just thinking, why is he the one playing? We have Noel Williams, who has played well in spurts at this time. And out of the bye week, it's Fulton that gets the nod. And, really here, in my opinion, you got to feel the sticks here a little more if you're a corner. You got to have a little more playmaking. You have to understand that your defensive end can only do so much as the underneath defender here, dropping and covering this out. You have a guy, who is this inside? Trent McDuffie giving you help right here as kind of that. He's dropping into a two deep kind of a structure, right, where Cook rotates over. McDuffie becomes the too high on this side. It's kind of almost a quarters look, it looks like, on this side, cover 4, where it's quarters. And so he is playing depth, but just have a feel for the sticks, man. It's 3rd and 7. I just feel like, you play with anticipation, especially, and here's the kicker here is, like, as a corner in Spags' defense, like, you always kind of have to play the quicker throw on a third down like this when they're blitzing, because you bank on the throw being out quick, right? You don't think an intermediate or longer route is going to necessarily be the throw, just because he's not going to have the time to do it if Spags' blitz works. And so I think the fact that Fulton is this far, look how far away he is. Look how deep he got. Again, if it's a quarters coverage, like, technically he may be correct in how he played it, right? Where he doesn't, he keeps getting depth. But I'll play it back in the side angle. But once Cortland Sutton commits inside, that's when you have to, okay, I have this quarter of the field now. What is the most immediate threat in this quarter of the field? In a 3rd and 7 situation, again, that's kind of the whole point of this, is where, like, in a 1st and 10, like, this is kind of just a play that almost just happens, right? Where if the Chiefs are really running quarters in a 1st and 10 situation, this is the play. All right, shoot, you got your yards, because we had a design where our flat defender was too far inside and the out route was in a good space. But, you would like to see George close on this, I guess, a little bit, but it was hard. I mean, that's as good as you can ask for a defensive end in space. Again, all that to say is, let's play with a little more anticipation as a defense, as a cornerback. Let's make a play on that ball at the sticks. I mean, shoot, if you really want to be ballsy with the blitz coming, maybe you just sit on it, wait for it, and you're picking that, with Bo Nix not seeing it coming. But you don't see that much with the Chiefs defense in terms of, kind of setting the quarterback up. And I've heard this, I can't remember who said it, but it's a really good point about Steve Spagnuolo's defense, especially in pass coverage. You don't see a lot of interceptions, and it's because these cornerbacks or these defensive backs a lot of times are in situations where they're not necessarily playing with eyes on the quarterback, whether they're in man coverage or an aggressive zone coverage that almost looks like man at times. They're a lot of times they're either, looking at routes, looking at other defenders, kind of picking up, off of their routes. A lot of times it's just off the routes, right? Instead of a lot of defenses, or maybe not a lot, but other defenses, you might have more turnovers, forced interceptions, just because you have defensive backs playing more traditional zone like this, where eyes are on the quarterback, and you still have guys. This is where I circled Shamari Connor here. This is where, it could be becoming a talent issue. I'm a guy that has defended Connor plenty, but this is a cover 3 look, cover 3 zone, cover 3. Shamari Connor is buzzing down. He's a strong safety. Cook is rotating over top to the free safety as a 1 high. And so when you're buzzing down, you really are, defending the middle of the field. I should give you the context that this is 3rd and 11. This is 3rd and 11. And so you definitely want to be playing the sticks in this situation. It's just a 4-man rush. So this is standard cover 3. And to me, it just feels like he has no feel for the route concepts. Like, how do you not feel that outside receiver coming in? Like, that's in exactly where you should be defending. He gets caught up with the guys inside. I mean, this is where, again, what I just said with the play before with Christian Fulton, play with some anticipation. Read the routes, have a feel for the route concepts when you have a trips to that side. Like, don't sell yourself so inside when you have why would you follow this route inside at all? Why would you take any steps towards this route inside when you have Nick Bolton right here? There's no point. He needs to stay disciplined, have a feel for the fact that he could be getting something behind him, and he doesn't at all. I mean, he's lost. And so, that's where, I don't know, we haven't liked him as a slot corner. I've been very strong on that in terms of Chamari Connor playing the slot corner position. But you're seeing his limitations as a true safety too. I mean, look at him frustrated. You see that? He knows. I mean, it's just awareness, on the field. And that's where, for a broader point or for just the bigger overall perspective, I like Steve Spagnuolo as my defensive coordinator on my favorite football team. I like the way he plays defense, honestly. I think right when you see some of the deficiencies, it seems like it's either talent, misexecution, which, hey, that happens in football. You get out talented, or you miss a few you don't execute a few plays, all of a sudden that's the game. But at the same time, this year just felt like these third and long spots happened a little too often, where you execute on first and second down, you get to that point where it should be, the easier play of the three, the easiest play of the three in a 3-down set. And I mean, look at this play. Talk about easy. This is another, zone blitz where they send 2 defenders, drop a guy out that looks like he was rushing. This time it just happens to be on that outside. Dana, you can see on the top, kind of drops into an underneath zone. Even Bolton looked like he was rushing for a second. They try to disguise it, right? You can see McDuffie. He just looks like he's manned up. And then this is Connor here. Just gets swallowed up. I mean, McDuffie gets blown up. This is where it's if you're the Broncos, I mean, good call on having a fullback at pass protector, against a blitzing defense like this, where a light DB like McDuffie, yeah, it doesn't take much, right, for the fullback to lay him on his butt and give Nix the time. But yeah, I mean, you just, as much as Fulton just gets beat right here, and like he just gets beat off the line, and this is a big grab in the third quarter with the score tied at 6. As much as that is the case here, again, when you blitz as a cornerback, as a Spags cornerback, you kind of expect it to be a quicker throw. You don't expect this throw to even be possible with the blitz coming on. There should not be enough time for that throw to get off. I mean, that's a quick throw as it was, but still the pressure. I mean, look at his setup. He's able to just step into it confidently. Look at that. His follow through is, nothing disruptive, and a beautiful throw. I mean, you got to give him credit, but yeah, every quarterback should make this throw when it's that clean. So, I mean, that's where this year, the blitz, we all know the 4-man rush is not as effective as it needs to be. We all understand that. And there's a whole conversation to be had about why that is. I think a key part of it is the kind of defensive lineman Spags wants to have in his scheme, wants to use in his scheme. It doesn't always necessarily turn into a bunch of guys that are going to, beat one-on-one, pass rushers and get into the pocket against these mobile quarterbacks, against some of these better offensive lines we see. That's one part of it. But at the same time, another thing is these blitzes are not getting home like we've used to see. That's where Jay Reed's a little missed. Jay Reed's a little missed out. Maybe more than we thought. Maybe more than some of us realize. I'm someone that definitely was ready for Jay Reed to move on. Wanted Jaden Hicks, someone we haven't seen as much of as probably we thought we were going to. So, you're going to see in these games he's not on the field for a lot of these plays, and all of a sudden, later in the season we're starting to see him more. But hopefully Jaden Hicks, well, he's on the field here, so that's good. But hopefully Jaden Hicks is someone we get to see a lot more of next year. Maybe it was just, I have seen a few reps. We will see one later that maybe he's just not as comfortable as he should be in the second year. He was one of the youngest prospects in last year's draft, if we remember. Jaden Hicks, the 4th-round pick, he fell and, he was the top safety in the class last year. And, so it was a great pick, even knowing, who we had on the defense, who we had at that position. And so it might just be taking him a little longer to catch on in Spag's system. And so we'll see what happens with Jaden Hicks in year 3. But this is kind of that famous 3rd and 15 from the Broncos game. Score is tied 19-19. This is right before the 2-minute warning. Again, 3rd and 15. And the Chiefs are going to come out and just do a straight up cover 2 man coverage, which means too high, right? The safeties are playing over the top, helping, and just everyone else is in man coverage or rushing if you don't have someone to cover. 4-man rush just doesn't get home. Well, we were just kind of maybe mentioning that. And you're going to see that I get it, but on 3rd and 15, does Bo Nix need to be spied on 3rd and 15 and waste a rusher in this instance? Like, I'd rather Leo just be getting after it at this point on 3rd and 15, because in this situation, they're not going to go for it, even if they're 2 yards shy of the sticks, I think, but just because of the situation in the game. Chiefs could easily kick a field goal if they don't get it. And so that's the first problem of this play is, I just don't love a 3-man rush, in this situation. It gives Bo Nix, especially with man coverage, like, again, I was talking about it earlier, but no one has their eyes on Bo Nix right now. So in a cover 2 man situation. So Bo can sit back there, buy time, and wait for that scramble drill mode, which is kind of what happens here. And like no DB, like Brian Cook should have his eyes on Bo Nix. I don't love how he plays this though. Like, dude, you don't want to give up the long play. But once Jalen watch him, when Sutton gets it's a tough play. And that's what I'm talking about with the fact that Bo Nix is able to have time, buy time, and Jalen Watson's in trail mode. Not necessarily expecting to have to maybe cover that long in a 3rd and 15 situation, where you're covering, way past the sticks, his 3rd move of the route pretty much. But B Cook could have a little more anticipation here, knowing that Sutton's, the guy that they're going for. Again, like, you don't want to get burned over the top. So I definitely understand, he's kind of respecting the slot route right here as the over-the-top defender. So you don't want to get beat over the top. You don't want to, give up that huge play. But, that's tough. I mean, it's tough. Courtland Sutton's a really good player. So that's why I really chalk this up to the play call. Don't love giving Bo Nix all this time against man coverage. Again, if it was more of a zone coverage that they called behind this look, then all the defenders are looking at him and seeing where he's looking, seeing where he's trying to go with the ball. Now, a lot of the defenders are truly just looking at the routes, playing that trail man coverage, and Jalen Watson gets beat on it. And so that's tough after, having the guard for a long time. All right. Losing my breath talking so much. That's why I need Caleb to get on here. CJ Scoobs, he needs to get on here so he can talk with me. But Cowboys game, week 13. Another kind of, we just went over a bunch of 3rd and longs that you saw failed against Denver. It was the same situation here 2 weeks later. Again, these are games that the Chiefs needed if they were going to make this season work. Again, I've talked about the offensive struggles, but at the same time, 3rd and long, you should be getting off the field if you're a defense. And we just didn't see it enough in some of these big games. So here you're going to get the Chiefs looking like they're going to be, well, they're actually in a cover 1 man. So what you're going to get is 5-man rush. 1 safety over the top is just kind of helping with everybody, and everyone else is in man. Trent McDuffie guarding CeeDee Lamb out of the slot. And this is where, these are the limitations with Trent McDuffie when you're playing a bigger receiver, right? I feel like we all talk about it, and we all saw it this game big time. And if you look at the rush, pretty good scheme, right? You get Omenihu looping back up, around from the edge. You load that side, and so you really have you're really getting the pass protection congested. like all these hats they have to think about, they kind of get lost, right? You can kind of see it. So this is where it just sucks when the coverage and the rush don't marry each other on a play, because you like this rush that Spag schemes up here with the attention on, you get a one-on-one with Chris Jones, and you get the center over committing all the way, allowing Omenihu to get to the opposite A gap and get through. And if Dak Prescott doesn't feel good about that throw at first, maybe he clutches it here and tries to come back, boom, he's getting smacked. So yeah, that's just where coverage just doesn't help a good pass rush. This is the second drive of the game. I should have mentioned that. These 3 third and longs you're about to see the Cowboys make are all on the second drive of the game after that Jalen Watson pick, which was a huge momentum boost, to start this game. Chiefs scored right away. They were up 7-0. Excuse me. This is another play where I just don't feel like Chamari Connor is having the feel you want to see at strong safety. As in Spag's defense, these safeties have to be playmakers. And, this is where Chamari Connor is a playmaker when it's a run. I feel like he just struggles on pass downs, on pass plays, no matter what situation he's in. I think the only time you really see him at his best is when he's just over the top playing like a too high structure and just kind of, being able to trigger downhill on stuff and not letting things get, like, everything else. It just seems like he struggles with kind of playing in space, coming up. This is why I put it on Chamari Connor. If you kind of see how the Chiefs, it is a pretty confusing look where I didn't get the whole clip. They're disguising, it looks like they're too high, and then Connor's coming down. They're going to rotate to more of, well, actually they go too high again. It's just McDuffie's the one dropping back over here. He rotates all the way. And so really what I think here is I think Chamari Connor is the responsibility in the middle of the field here. I think he just kind of lazily takes the route that's in front of him, just as, oh, I'm covering this guy. When, if you think of the situation, 3rd and 9, so this is 3rd and long, 3rd and 9, like, you should allow this route to pass. Know that if he does throw that, we have B Cook triggering downhill over here. Noel Williams is locked up in man, but you kind of have to trust that whatever defender's over here, no matter how deep he is, he has to be the one taking that over, and you have to stay in the middle of the field. Instead, no one is here. And, could Trent have played maybe a little more anticipation with the sticks? I don't love how he just completely bails and doesn't even give himself a chance to play the sticks. This is where Spags might be getting a little too creative on some of the stuff he does. Looks like this is like a quarters look on this side. But again, I just feel like McDuffie also believes he has inside help. And Connor just kind of, I feel like this is, again, where he just kind of lazily takes what's in front of him instead of maybe playing the situation, playing where, if you think about it, if you're in the middle of the field, like this guy, if he's just going to be a short drag route, like, let him go, because it's 3rd and 9. If he throws that, again, you have B Cook right here, and you can rally to that. Like, you yourself can, if you stay in the middle of the field and then see that pass get complete, boom, rally. But sit in that middle of the field. Don't let this pass be so easy as CeeDee Lamb. And so again, this is the second 3rd and long that was converted on the second drive of the game after going up 7-0. And McDuffie, he's about to give up a touchdown, which we'll see in a second, but a little rush action here. Gelati starting to play more at this instance. You see Chris still doing his thing, kind of lining up on the inside shoulder of the tackle. Or no, it's the outside shoulder. Yeah, he just kind of comes in a little tighter, not as on the edge, and still just dominates to get inside, get the pressure. And then here you're going to see just a standard little Tampa 2 zone, which Tampa 2 is just kind of a cover 2 look, except you really have a true middle of the hole defender that's kind of playing this alley between the safeties. That's what Nick Bolton's doing here. He's not allowing, that seam route. But Mike Edwards is in for Brian Cook, and Mike Edwards just kind of doesn't even, think about, which, you're not supposed to necessarily in this instance. It's you're not going to get over there in time probably a lot of times anyway. He looks like he's more playing this tight end. You're just kind of trusting that maybe, this is one-on-one out here. McDuffie gets beat. Good route by CeeDee Lamb, touchdown. And so, again, 3 third and longs the Chiefs force on this drive where they're already up 7-0, already forced a turnover. It's just third and long is supposed to be the play you get off the field. This is another example of a frustrating not getting off the field moment. This is another Tampa 2 look, too high, hole defender. But watch how deep everyone gets on third and 7. This is 3rd and 7. These are underneath defenders. And they just completely lose discipline. Like, you have to respect an underneath route at some point. Someone has to, because you only need 7 yards. I just feel like that's just kind of lazy drifting back. Like, I think that's Connor right there. I think that's McDuffie right here. And this ends up being a first down. Look how frustrated Nick Bolton is. Yeah, it's Connor. Like, I get this guy was blocking at first, like, but someone has to have a feel for the eligible receiver. I mean, even the running back. And that's where Gelati actually keeps pretty good depth, right? Which makes sense because he's a defensive lineman. Like, he's not going to, get as much depth as defensive backs getting down the field. But at the same time, that's what needed to happen on this play. These guys just kind of lazily drift with the routes. Nick Bolton's rushing. He's not, and maybe he's guarding the running back. But it's just frustrating, man. Third and longs. And that's where, having more playmakers in the secondary at the safety position, at the linebacker position, Nick Bolton is going to be here, but, getting someone to maybe take Tranquil's place, who is a potential cut this offseason, who's a true playmaker. I mean, we haven't been able to see Jeff Bossa, the rookie linebacker, on the field from Oregon. But all that to say, this is another frustrating one. Fourth quarter, scored tied at 21. 3rd and 8. It's going to turn into cover 0. There's just a man on man and everyone else is blitzing, right? And Jalen Watson is just, he's not anticipating the slant. He's kind of playing to not get beat outside, which I get. You feel like maybe, if the slant comes, you can make the play, but Pickens just runs a great route. He is explosive. And then Jalen Watson gets, he's not able to come down on the route. He just does, he kind of just loses that battle from the start. As soon as Pickens breaks in here, look how far behind Jalen Watson is from covering that. And so, yeah, that's just bad. That's just tough. And I don't know. I mean, Spags tried to disguise it. He tried to make this kind of look like it was maybe just a cover 1 man with a 5th rusher, where maybe they're all manning up here. Or no, excuse me. He's manning up here, and then he's going to be over the top potentially. Edwards tried to make it look like that, but no, I don't know. I mean, slant on 3rd and 8, you're not necessarily wanting to guard for that because then you can get beat over the top, but you can't really necessarily give up 38 yards either. And so, the pressure means nothing because that's an easy catch and run. And so, yeah, I mean, Jalen Watson's someone that's hit free agency this offseason. He's someone I think is worth paying as a boundary cornerback in the NFL, starting boundary cornerback. But whether or not we see him again, I do think the Chiefs need to make sure they just have playmakers in the secondary, man. Like, these mistakes are crucial. And this one is crucial. I believe I'm correct in identifying that Nick Bolton just kind of guessed wrong here. This is 3rd and goal, 9 yards to go against the Houston Texans. And so Nick Bolton here, basically going to be a cover 1 man look where this guy, I think it's Hicks, he's going to come down into kind of that, or no, it's Edwards, excuse me. He's going to come down into that robber role, kind of try to rob a throw in the middle of the field here. And so that's where there is a chance that Noel Williams should kind of have the understanding that, okay, my guy is gone. My guy has been picked up. I can't chase him across the whole field in the red zone. A lot of times, you see guys kind of pass off and then, take each other's responsibility. So maybe Noel could have understood that he needs to just settle once he goes all the way in. And so he can kind of maybe be this last line of defense. But I really think what happens here is Nick Bolton just not guesses, but, makes an educated guess that Woody Marks staying in the block. Woody Marks sells it for a second, and Marks makes a play, and Stroud makes a play. Because that's the thing is like this is kind of a bold move on Marks's part, because if Stroud doesn't get this out to him quick, I mean, he's just sacked. And so like it could have been a really big play, but again, these are the plays that make a difference in the game. That was, Texans barely scored any points this game, and that was their touchdown early in the ball game. This drive didn't lead to any points or anything, but I will cap off this talk here tonight on 3rd and long with just kind of, not necessarily a great play again by this defense. And again, I think it's a play where Connor is buzzing down in this kind of cover 3 look where you have Cook as the one high. He's kind of in that strong safety role, right, where he's playing the sticks. I should say this is 3rd and 16. So you really just got to be playing the sticks, or really just have a feel for where the sticks are at least. And, this vertical route gets him where he turns, goes with the vertical. And if he kind of would have just maybe been a little more aware of the sticks or played a little more anticipation, hey, does he get burned if he, I think Stroud is in this position where he's stepping up. And honestly, like he could have, maybe he hits Noel if Connor isn't the one that goes with him. And so this is where you look at where Jaden Hicks does. And this is the play I was talking about earlier where, Hicks didn't play a lot this year as much as we all thought. When you see stuff like this, you just don't love to see that, because I do think in this cover 3 look, he's supposed to be in the flat, but I think he's wanting to play underneath this guy, knowing that's maybe where the ball's going. I think he's just trying to play with feel, but he just looks like he's lost, right? I mean, he's just like he's scrambling around looking. He just doesn't look comfortable at all in this rep. And again, if it's a cover 3 look, you have your third. And so Connor, if he's buzzing down, he's really more of the hook curl. But you could say that maybe, someone has to be in the flat. So Hicks kind of is maybe that flat and the curl, whereas Connor is just the hook, but also maybe, I don't know. I think Connor could have played a little more discipline. I think both of them could have played a lot more discipline here. Again, the safety position is just so important in Spags' defense. I think that's the main takeaway tonight if you're joining me tonight, so I appreciate you joining me. Caleb Downs, someone I tweeted out, hey, picking this high, man, you have the chance to do that where, a guy, if, old Chiefs fans know, Eric Berry was the top 5 pick. I believe he was number 5 overall, and that was fun. It was fun to have that kind of guy in our secondary, and having a difference making. Safety is one of those positions where you can make it work with just guys. I think the Chiefs do that sometimes, but when you do have that Tyrann Mathieu, give him credit, Jay Reed at times. When you have those guys, it does feel like it can make a huge difference on pass downs, even on run downs, just filling plays or anticipating plays, or kind of reading a play out where maybe it's not necessarily his exact responsibility like a Tyrann, but he just saw something coming, jumped it, read it, took a play away. And those plays here and there are the difference in a game. And I just feel like that was kind of maybe missing from the Chiefs defense this year, a year removed from Jay Reed being, kind of that guy for the Chiefs. So Caleb Downs, I'll say that, on a 3rd and long defense video, that's where I'll kind of end it and say, he's kind of my early dream pick for the Chiefs. I know there's a lot of talk about Jeremiah Love, Kenyon Sadiq, guys that are, luxury picks, to be honest. And the Chiefs are in a position where you do want to make sure you get a really talented elite player at the, you don't want to just waste that pick with just a guy. And so I don't mind where, if that is a unique position, but at the same time, I do think a difference making safety with Spags as your defensive coordinator is such a huge thing. And I think you can still get your weapons later in the draft, even in free agency this year with running back and tight end for sure. And receiver is a whole nother discussion. So we'll get into all that. We will. Appreciate you joining me tonight. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Make sure you follow arrowheadpride.com for all the latest Chiefs news as we get to the off season, week 18, Sunday at 3:30. So we'll get through that. Watch the Chiefs and the Raiders battle it out. And if the Chiefs do somehow lose that, we would be picking pretty high. I believe number 8, as high as that is the possibility. I'm sure the Chiefs will take care of business and be picking, 9, 10, somewhere in that range, which is still great. So make sure you are tuning in to all the stuff we got coming on for the offseason. We'll be doing draft coverage. We'll be doing it big with the Chiefs not making the playoffs and giving us plenty of time to cover the offseason in January moving forward. So thank you for joining. Appreciate you joining me tonight. And, hit me up if you have any other ideas for what you want to see get broken down, any phase of the game, any players. We'll be bringing it to you as we get to it. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Go Chiefs.